Hey, real quick, before we get into that episode, do us a favor and subscribe to our channel. That way you don't miss out on any marketing nuggets. Enjoy the show.
It's that consistency. It's being willing to continue to tell the story, to say the same thing over and over through different channels in different ways, but consistently coming through with that message and consistently delivering on the promises that you've made to your customers or prospective customers.
Hi, I'm Josh Owen. As the owner of a video marketing company in New Orleans, I've been on the quest to learn everything I can about marketing. Everyone has a different style, different strategy, and a different experience. Is there a wrong way to do it? A right way to do it? Let's find out together as we make marketing make sense. Welcome back, everybody, to a fantastic episode of Make Marketing Make Sense. Today I'm joined by the lovely Melissa Hodgson.
Thank you. Excited to be
Vice
here.
President of Gambel Communications. Just a wonderful speaker, wonderful, person to have on the show. Love to learn from you and get in here and see what you're here to talk about, which is...
Thank you. I am here to talk about strategic communication.
Wow, I like that. I usually introduce it, but I prompted you to do it. That was great. Wow, all right. Well, strategic communication, when it comes to what we do in the quote-unquote PR, marketing, branding world, what does that mean?
Well, you got communication and you got strategy. Strategic communication, right?
Wow.
So
I'm with you so far.
We're done here, right?
All right.
Communication, when you boil it down, is someone who has something they want to say, what it is they want to say, who it is they want to say it to, and how it is they're going to get it there.
Wow.
So you got a source, a receiver, a message, and a channel. Boom, we're done. That's communication.
Wow.
Well, devil's in the details, right? Because that's where the strategy comes in.
Right.
So we'll stop and think about, if I'm the sender, what is it that I am trying to get across? What is my message and what matters about it? Who am I trying to get it to? That receiver. What do we care about? Who do we care about? And then the channel, the message, the medium that's going to travel across. Which one is best, or are many of them best? So that's the communication and the strategy, strategic communication.
Playing all together. I love that. Wow, that was the most well-spoken thing we've had all day. I'll tell you what, man. I mean,
it's like I studied it.
It's like you know a thing or two here, Well, no, that's fantastic. I mean, going off of that communication, that strategy, those elements, those core components, outside of that, how does that bleed into what we do as marketers, what we do as PR? Are there elements of that in each, field?
Absolutely. So if you start with public relations, marketing, branding, those are kind of the three big picture buckets that we tend to put strategic communication in. Each one of them is communication at its core, and each one of them is for strategic purpose, but each one of them is very different.
Yeah.
And as businesses, we're all looking at how to use public relations, marketing, or branding to advance our goals and ultimately become more successful businesses.
Yeah, and one of the things, and why I'm so excited to talk about this with you is, man, I've met so many PR people, so many marketing people, so many branding people, and in my life, and it's so interesting how these three things are so unique and separate, and yet they're so blurred at the same time. Like,
absolutely,
they're constantly dealing with multiple layers of it, and I wonder how many times we almost lose track of what the lines are between these things.
And I think a certain amount of blurring of the lines is a healthy thing and a helpful thing, because I'd like to say you only need this for your strategic communication. You only need PR, or you only need branding, or you only need marketing. You really need to layer each of those on top of each other, because if you think about it, PR in a certain way is the heart and soul of your business. It's what you want people to think of your business conceptually.
Yeah. Well, I mean, before you go on to that thought, I think too, before we even dive in, because I think your point's going to even be better off if we even give people a quick summation of for the people that don't know what PR, brand, and marketing, kind of like how you would define it.
Yeah, starting at the very basics of it, public relations is very much about the reputation or what people think of your business. Branding is more in terms of identifying the identity of your business. And marketing is the art of the sale. That is taking communication and helping people to realize that what you have to offer is what they want to buy.
Yeah, and that's great. Wow, yeah, I mean, great summation. And then, going back to your original line of thinking there is that PR is that piece that, it's, that lifeblood that, that you get out there, you get your messaging across to the people out there. But, you need good branding. And like what you're saying is those three things, they need to work in tandem with each other in some degree because they all touch each other in some degree. And we all kind of forget that sometimes.
That's 100%. And basically, if you think about it, I'm trying to think of an example with public relations. Let's say we want a CEO to be a thought leader. And by thought leader, we mean that when a topic is in the news or something is happening that everyone in town is thinking about or talking about, who is that expert that everyone thinks, oh, we need to know what so-and-so thinks about this issue because that's his or her area of expertise. That's a thought leader. And so in public relations, we can look at ways to help a company and its leadership become thought leaders in their industries. A brand, now that's going to be more of a situation where you are helping a company to become instantly recognizable. An example of that, I think probably the single most iconic thing that most people think of when you say branding would be the Nike swoosh. Or here locally, think about the New Orleans Saints fleur-de-lis. There are a million fleur-de-lis, but when you see the Saints fleur-de-lis, you know that that's about the New Orleans Saints, the football team.
Right.
Gambel's asterisk is absolutely an iconic logo mark. It's a brand mark, and it's different from your average asterisk. There are things about it that as soon as you see it, boom, that is designed so that people think of the reputation of that company. So you see how branding and PR are pulled together.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome.
Now, marketing, that's the last one, and what it's doing is taking that PR reputation and that brand identity, and it's wrapping it up into, now that you love us and you know us, don't you want to buy our product? Yes, you do.
Right. Wow. So it's like, and that's the kind of thing because we'll have different professionals come on and talk about these things in their vacuum and stuff like that. But then there's always like that little bit of like, well, but in order for this strategy to work, we need to have strong branding. We need to have, we need to understand these elements. We need to understand from a public relations perspective. We need to understand our audience. We need to understand, who we're speaking to. We need to understand that communication aspect.
Right.
All that good stuff. So that's really interesting to hear. I think, I've got two questions that come off, but I want to I guess I'll start with this one, but then the other one I'm really kind of curious about. This is just more of like a teaser on your brain here. But as far as building a consistent messaging, how do you how like a lot of people I think struggle with the consistency element, and then now you're saying we got to keep all three. What is when you're talking to business owners, what is your kind of recommendations with how to tackle these? Because obviously branding's a lot. PR's a lot, marketing's a lot. Is there a thing that you start with? Is there, how do you kind of start to break this up for business owners to kind of tackle?
I think you have to build and layer, and you have to be consistent. So build and layer, let's look at what's the most pressing issue that needs to happen first. When you started your company, did you just name it what you do? And if so, does it need a more distinctive name that everyone in your industry doesn't essentially have as the description of their business is the name of their business? What's your logo or brand mark? Do we need to start there? Do you have a website? What is your social media presence? Those may be foundational reasons to start with branding. Or possibly you have all of that, but people don't generally know who you are or what you stand for or why they should care. So maybe public relations is your first hill to climb. Marketing, if what you need to do is try to just get out there and get some sales going and really seal the deal, then maybe we need to just get out there with a marketing message. But marketing is at its most effective when it's layered and it steps in as we've built
Yeah.
what people think of your brand and how people identify your brand, because then, the bottom line is you want them to do business with your brand.
And I guess maybe the best way to understand it too is looking also at the negative side of that, is because, to better define it, in what ways do you feel like people in the industry are kind of leaving cards on the table or not really effectively doing this? Like, what things are you noticing, or like kind of some epidemics that are kind of in the marketing world?
I think
Or the
too.
marketing, branding, PR world.
Absolutely, the application
The
of them.
application, yeah.
I agree. I think too, first and foremost, consistency. You'd like to say, okay, well, we did that.
Yeah.
But you can't just come out with something once and be done. At the beginning of this, we were talking about the very basic model of communication is sender, receiver, message, channel, done. Well, if it worked that easily, then none of us would be needed. There'd be no industry of strategic communication.
Right.
And it's that consistency. It's being willing to continue to tell the story, to say the same thing over and over through different channels in different ways, but consistently coming through with that message and consistently delivering on the promises that you've made to your customers or prospective customers.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I think that is incredible. I mean, yeah, like a lot of us forget about that, and it's really tough to keep that consistency. It's tough to keep that along. And it's like, and are you suggesting as well to keep the consistency in all three buckets at the same time?
That's the other. So you got consistency. And then the second point here is you can't just pick one.
Right.
Right. And so you're not able to just say, well, we only do public relations.
Right.
Our company only needs public relations. Your company probably needs a layering, a little bit of each of these. And at different times, they may step up or back. So, for example, I was saying marketing can be something that you're building to, so that when you come out with a marketing campaign and you are really trying to close that deal, you have established some things that really make people understand, and you have established a way that people can instantly recognize you. A good example could be even a nonprofit. Let's take it out of the business world for a second. Nonprofits, the way that they sustain themselves and become very successful, reliable nonprofits is through fundraising.
Right.
So if they are able, before they go into a capital campaign, for example, to have a significant amount of public relations happening where they're in the news all the time, people are seeing the impact that their programs have on their communities, that kind of identity with branding can mean that when they do come out and start asking for money in that capital campaign, that the people they're talking to are going, oh, I know this organization. I just saw something on television about this program.
Right, right. And it's like, and I think too, it's all about those multiple, like, in the world of communications, we talked about it, everyone brings it up, you need multiple touch points, and you've got to do it across multiple channels. And this is the best way to go about doing it, which, I think, what I was going to ask, do you feel like there are some endeavors out there that can incorporate these elements in multiple ways? And, I mean, I don't want to, toot my own horn here, but, it's like podcasting I found is something that really kind of incorporates multiple elements of that in, and other ways, to be effectively doing that as a business.
100%. In public speech, we always say, tell them what you're going to tell them. Tell them what you told them. So throughout the public address, you are repeating yourself in three different ways.
Yeah.
You're starting off with a tease, you're giving the meat, and then you're kind of coming back, making sure they got it.
Yeah.
And in marketing, public relations, and branding, each of them have that tell them what you're going to tell them, tell them what you told them. And the layering of different channels is an example of that. So we can sit here on a podcast and we can talk about how to make marketing make sense. But then we also can look on the web. We can see it on social media. We can also see marketing books and instruction. We can see it in multimedia ways.
Yeah.
And that's a way for people to layer in that communication education. Wow. And podcasting was at the start of it.
Yeah, that's the best part. I mean, that's the thing that people don't think of. I mean, I think it's almost like you don't know what you don't know, in that sense. And it takes a professional like yourself to really come in and help people see the different avenues, because it's experience, and knowing like there's other options out there. Because I feel like as business owners, it's hard, because it's common for me to ask, well, where should a business owner start with all this? But it's kind of like, well, like you said, it's like we're all in different avenues. We're all in different lanes. We all have different problems. We all have different needs. So it's really about you as a business recognizing where your blinders are and being able to approach the professional that's going to help you get to the next stop.
Right. The answer is always going to be it depends.
Yeah,
and that's
exactly.
why you want strategic approaches to your communication. If you just say, we need a billboard, or we need a podcast, or we need to be on TV.
Yeah.
You may need a blend of all of those things. Depending on what you're trying to achieve, maybe none of those things are the right solution for you. And that's why you want to take a strategic approach. You want to sit down with a professional who can help you think through, where are you right now? What is it that you were hoping to achieve with your communication? And then let's map out what it's going to take to get there. And I'd almost guarantee you it's going to be layers of marketing, branding, public relations.
Yeah. And I think, too, also, and I'm curious what you think, but we're so not used to incorporating all three that we almost we kind of inadvertently do it sometimes, but we're not really like giving it the justice it deserves.
Sure.
And saying like, okay, we have every endeavor we should be thinking, and this is just like a call to all you marketers out there, it's like, or business owners, it's that, when you're coming up with something, like I love how you have it all mapped out. You think about it from a communication standpoint and a strategic standpoint. And then after you kind of build these two things out, you think about how your marketing, your branding, and your PR is going to work in tandem within those two things that you've done for the campaign that you're building.
Exactly. So if we start with that communication model, right? We got the sender, the receiver, the message, and the channel. Let's think about the audience. That's the receiver, right? Who is it that we want to get this information? Well, everybody on earth, but realistically, we have budgets, right?
Yeah.
So then we start thinking about our audience. How do we find our audience? Who do we care about as a business? And you can start with demographic factors, simple things like, what's your delivery area? Or how far away are people willing to come to do business with you? So that's geography, right? Those geographic limitations are demographic. If you're doing business with individual people, you might care about their age or their household incomes and things like that. Again, those are demographic. If you're a B2B, you may be thinking about how large or small a business you want to work with, what industries you do business with or have an interest in doing business with you. Again, those are demographic. Then you layer on top of that psychographic things to think about. So think about the values that the individual people who choose you might be interested in. What values motivate them to do business with a particular company? How do you align with those values? How do you explain your company's values so that people understand that you're someone they want to do business with?
Yeah.
And those are more along the lines of the psychographics. So those kind of layer as well.
Wow. It's kind of like we're building like a marketing pyramid up here. It's like you got the two core things, the communications, the strategy. Then you have the three, big pieces underneath that, and then underneath that, all these things need to be speaking to the audience based off of the list of things you just mentioned. Is there anything below that? After that, what else can we get out of this time?
Well, and you're right. There really is a structure, and it's starting first with, what does success look like to you? What is it that you're trying to achieve? Because as long as we understand that goal, then we can step back and start to think about things like, okay, then your audience needs to be this group of people or this type of business. And then your message can be or needs to be this. And so we're going to be able to pull those things together.
Wow.
And ultimately, at the end, be able to evaluate the whole thing and come back and say, we set out to accomplish this. Here's what we accomplished. And here's, where your business materially improved as a result of what you set out to do in a strategic manner.
Wow. I mean, I think we hit all the nails on the head here. I mean, the last thing I'll just say is there anything else that you'd want to fit in there as far as things that, basically having all this roadmap, laid out for people and business owners, marketers, is there anything in particular that you would want them to just, one takeaway that from knowing, communication strategy, the 3 buckets working in tandem, is there anything in particular that you would want to just make sure, things you see on the day to day, something that you might want them to know and just say like, hey, like, just remember this at the end of it all?
I think the thing to remember is it's a layered approach and it's consistency. So your strategic communication plan or your communication strategy is beyond just, okay, I put that on social media, but nobody came, right? It's to think strategically about what are the layers and channels that this message can go through, and never grow weary of doing good. Keep saying what you're saying over and over again through those different channels, because that consistency is how people begin to hear what you have to say, trust that you're who they should rely on for that information, and come back when it's time to do business.
Yeah. Wow. Keep it going. Don't stop the consistency. And remember to always integrate your marketing, your branding, and your PR together as one.
Perfect.
Nailed it. Awesome. Well, fantastic. Well, definitely, I think this is some great knowledge. I think people would be eager to learn more from you. So if you could tell them where they could find you, and Gambel, if they wanted to, come and have a conversation with you.
Thank you. I hope everyone will visit gambelpr.com to check out our website. We're on all the social media as well, and you can give us a call. We're Gambel Communications, and I'm Melissa Hodgson, Vice President.
Awesome. Man, nailed it, Melissa. Well, let's roll it out. This has been another fantastic episode of Make Marketing Make Sense. Thank you so much for joining me, and we'll see you all in the next one.
Thanks for having me. This was fun.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning into the show. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. This episode of Make Marketing Make Sense is brought to you by Comfystone. If your business needs organic social media video content, video ads, or video podcasting, hit up Comfystone at comfystone.com and follow Comfystone on Instagram and TikTok. Until next time, this is Make Marketing Make Sense.